That practice may become very clouded and very corrupt, and it has to a large degree in many parts of the Muslim world today. However, there remains in the midst of Muslims those who have knowledge, scholars, books, wherein one who seeks the truth and wants to know what is pure Islam, it is accessible. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also told us that towards the end of time, there would appear amongst the Muslims an individual who he referred to as Al-Mahdi, the rightly guided one. And towards the end of his stay, Isa alayhi salam would return. This is a part of the future which the Prophet ﷺ prophesied for us in quite clear and unambiguous terms. This has led historically to people at different points in time claiming that they were the Mahdi. We had from the time, the early centuries after the death of Hussein, that his half-brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, he was declared to be the Mahdi, though he didn't accept it himself. After him, you had other individuals who have claimed it. I even came across a claim, somebody on the internet had written me, asking me a question. This individual wanted to marry a sister, Muslim sister, but she belonged to a group which was called the Mahdiya group out of India and Pakistan, and I'd never even heard about this. But according to what he related that there's this individual by the name of Sayyid Muhammad Jaunpuri, who was born in Jaunpur in the late 15th century. He declared himself to be the Mahdi in Mecca, apparently, and in Ahmedabad in India. And he died in Farah in Afghanistan. At any rate, you know, these people believe he was the Mahdi. We also had Muhammad Ahmed in the Sudan in the late 19th century. He was involved in a movement which fought against British colonialism. But he, of course, was not the Mahdi. He claimed to be the Mahdi. He had a variety of different claims along with it, but he wasn't the Mahdi. He was a false Mahdi. And we also had Wallace D. Muhammad, you know, who's now known as Warithuddin. In 1975, when he took over after his father died, he also claimed he was the Mahdi too. And perhaps the most recent claim is that of Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani in Mecca. We know in 1979, around the turn of the decade, 79-80, during Hajj, this individual, Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani, took bay'ah from people at the Yemeni corner, and himself and a band of Muslims occupied the Kaaba. And from their position of occupation of the Kaaba, they began to execute, by firing from the minarets, at anyone wearing any kind of uniforms outside of the masjid. And the Saudi state was obliged to bring troops in there and fight it out with them and eventually kill this individual who claimed to be the Mahdi. And the other leader of the group, Juhayman al-Utaybi, he was caught along with some 60 others, males, who were executed across the kingdom. That was an incident which shocked the Muslim world. Some people thought that these people were some kind of deviants, you know, Shiites, so it was said. The Shiites actually claimed this to be their people. But the realities of what took place, most people are unaware that the realities were that those who ended up in the Haram, with this claim and ended up killing Muslims and being killed themselves. These individuals were actually very sincere individuals. They're very sincere. Many of them were former students at the Islamic University in Medina, and others who had been listening to lectures of Sheikh bin Baz and others there, who had banded themselves together in a village outside of Medina and decided that they wanted to apply the Sharia there. They were opposed to what was taking place in Saudi Arabia in terms of the corruption, and they isolated themselves in this village. And there was a student of Sharia in Riyadh who was studying in Imam ibn Saud University. His name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani, and he used to be the Imam of a masjid there in Riyadh, and he used to give some very powerful lectures for Jum'ah and at other times. And the crowd started to gather to such a degree that the government banned him from giving lectures, Jum'ah, in his masjid. He used to go around to different masjids and give Jum'ah, and people would find out where he was going, and again the crowds were there. Then he was banned from giving any lectures at all. And even his tapes, the lectures, taped lectures, it was considered contraband. If one was caught with it, it would mean trouble. But they were still circulated. And he himself, he left Riyadh and he went to Medina. And eventually he found his way to that village outside of Medina, where a group of students, along with this individual, Juhayman, who was a car salesman, originally with the Saudi National Guard, who had left there, he made his way to that village. Now, before he got to the village, what had happened is that group began to experience dreams. People in the groups began to experience dreams that the Mahdi was coming. Because this was the end, this was 1399, and 1400 is coming, right? The turn of the century. In fact, there were reports from people from other parts of the world that they started to have these kind of dreams, that the Mahdi was coming. Now, Juhayman's sister, she dreamt that she actually married the Mahdi. And when Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani came to the village, she was shocked. She said it was him. This is the person that she saw in her dream. And of course his name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah, which, as we will see as the descriptions the Prophet Muhammad gave of the Mahdi, that he would carry the name, carry his name and his father's name, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. And the other people in the community there, they all started to insist. At first the individual refused. He said, no, I'm not the Mahdi. And he was a known righteous individual. He was not corrupt in any way. It is well known, die. But eventually, with enough people telling him he was the Mahdi, they saw him in the dream, and these are true dreams. And one of the signs of the last day, Prophet ﷺ said that the believers' dreams will virtually come true in most instances. They'll start to see a series of true dreams, one of the signs of the last day. So he became convinced that he was in fact the Mahdi. And they went to Mecca and tried to live out the hadiths that the Prophet ﷺ related concerning the Mahdi. So though their intention was good, there were people who wanted to practice Sharia, etc. And of course, when they took over the Kaaba and they made announcements over it, the things that they were calling for and insisting on, changes in the system of Saudi Arabia, in its television, in the banking, in a variety of different areas in the society that had become corrupt, they addressed these issues and said these things should be changed. So you can see that what they were speaking about was, correcting things going back to Islam. But the method that they chose